Welcome to the podcast where we discuss all matters financial planning and investing. This content contains general information only and may not be relevant to everyone. Please contact our office to make sure and determine if this is relevant for you.
Hi and welcome to the podcast. I'm David Loughnane, and today I want to talk to you about one strategy that I find has really changed everything for my clients, myself included, and that comes down to really financial reviews. And one of the things that happens a lot of the time when someone will come to a financial planner, they'll be after some advice or initial advice. Like, while that might be great, where the actual real value is in financial planning and creating a plan and all those sorts of things is in the reviews and refinement, improvement of everything you're doing. Like, generally, obviously, over initial advice is not going to make someone $1 zillion overnight, but making the small improvements and doing step-by-step sort of strategies and implementation, and as things change in someone's life, the improvements and the actual progress becomes astronomical, and it's compound. So it's like I talk about a lot, if someone hasn't got a lot of money invested, getting a great return is not going to make you the most amount of money, obviously. It's more about getting money into investments and getting more investments to actually help you grow and build your wealth. And one of those things, if you never track anything, if you never measure anything, or if you don't improve anything, you won't get to where you want to go. And I was doing a review today. Look, I do probably 3 or 4 or 5 reviews a week. And I always find it amazing. Like, the couple that I reviewed today, they went forward hundreds of thousands, which is great. Obviously, that's one step. And there was a whole bunch of stuff going on in their life individually as well, where decisions need to be made, and without the right input and the knowledge of how things can be over the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years in this position, in their situation, would be millions of dollars different. So it can be that important. So today I want to talk to you about really the importance of it, how to get started on it. And I always talk about the really biggest reason it matters is because if you don't look to improve something, it never will. Okay, if you don't control your cash flow, you never will, right? If you're not putting money into investments, it's not going to get to generally where you want to get to. So look, all the people who are at the top of their field or the most effective have got people really helping them, but they're reviewing what they're doing all the time, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and so forth. When it comes to financial planning, initially what I started out over 10 years ago now was we're looking to review people sort of every 12 months. What I've found is that becomes a long time between different scenarios. So what I found is really catching up with people mid-year to make sure there's no circumstances of changing or goals have changed or a whole bunch of things could have changed, and making sure that you're in the loop and you can help on those. But at the very least, 12 monthly sort of reviewing your scenario and making the improvements and refinements as they come. So why I think it matters a lot is because when you do the right things and you review your situation, it will give you encouragement to keep going. So what I always talk about is really stretching the gap. Obviously, what we're trying to do in financial planning a lot of the time is pull down debt and really increase our asset base. So getting the two going like that. And what happens is, in the first year, you might go forward 50 grand for argument's sake. In the second year, if you keep doing the right thing, it'll be 70 grand, then 100 grand, then 200 grand. And then obviously you've created momentum to keep doing the right thing. And what happens is, as you get encouragement or things are going your way, you keep doing them. And all of a sudden, over a few short years, basically you've created a new strategy and a new pattern of what will actually happen in everything you do. So I always find if you can always improve what you measure, you can track what you measure, and it shows very obviously if things aren't working and what's going wrong, what's breaking down. And I always find myself, if I'm reviewing my situation and where I'm going, that keeps me on track. I don't know about yourself, but if you think about it right now, are you on track for what? It probably comes down to a lot of people, because when it comes to finances, a lot of people unfortunately don't have goals. They don't have strategies. They are where they are, and they've learnt their information or what they're doing from people before them or parents or what have you. And whether that's a good position to be in or not, obviously, if you were taught by someone who's done really well financially, obviously you'll probably be in a good position if you follow it on. But if there's a lot of people in really bad financial positions, and if you follow it along that model, obviously it's not going to be so good. So for me, it's about getting the results, making the small improvements as we go along, And they don't have to be massive. They can be just changes in this investment's working better or that investment's working better, or depending on the cycle, depending on interest rates, depending on your personal income. All these things generally change. And if you're not reviewing them consistently, obviously you're not going to get the best result. So how often, and really what should be in there, look, if you don't have any financial goals, you want to get some. That's the reality. And probably some common goals around what we deal with is one of them is generally around retirement. So I want to be able to get to retirement and continue my current lifestyle, not have to worry about money, but also have the security, safety that I know I can continue living my lifestyle, if not better. No one generally says they want to be worse off once they get there. And from those particular goals, and that might be an age, you might be 60 or you might retire at 50 or it might be 70, you feel like you'd work forever. Everyone's different depending on what your goals are, but one thing is really universal. Everyone wants to be in a position to have choice. And if you can get to that position, I call it financial independence. So having a goal around that, generally people have a goal around they may have some debt. So they're looking to make sure they pay down their debt by within 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it may be. Having a plan around how that's going to happen, whether that's contribution, whether it's debt recycling, whether it's capital investments, whether you're buying property investments, whether you're investing in business, and how do those things help you? Like I had a young couple yesterday that we're doing a review with. So once I start talking about reviews, I could talk all week about these things. And I always find it really interesting. Basically getting in, they've got a bit of debt and then moving forward, it's like, what's the best way to actually pay down this debt? And it's not just one way, generally just paying down your debt just from your cash flow and making escrow payments is a long way to do that. Where, investing in different assets such as property, such as your share market, and all those things have their place, and depending on your risk profile and all those sorts of things. So you might have a goal around your debt. And obviously, if you don't, that's a worry for a lot of people. You want to be in a position where at some stage you're not going to have debt. It's not. I don't think it's. I don't think it's our goal to have a 30-year mortgage. I just don't think that is. That's the bank's goal, right? So that's why they want to give you the money. They're very happy to give their money out and get you paying them for the next 30 years. But if you can pay that off sooner, some are around protection. Some people want to, I always find a lot of people want to protect their families, their income, their investments. So if something did go wrong, it stops a lot of people from doing something. So that may be one of your goals. One of your goals might be, I want to go on holidays more often. I know myself and my wife are doing that more often, overcoming, because I'm turning 52 this year, so I'm getting a little older. And it's like, what are we waiting for? We can do the trips, we can plan it all in, and we're not waiting for that time in 10 years or 15 years or whatever. From a retirement perspective, I don't see myself retiring anytime soon, even though I could. So it's just everyone wants to get in position. So you've got goals around that. Holiday, travel, superannuation might be another one where you want to get your superannuation working to get to a point. A lot of our clients around goals are looking to get their superannuation to a few $1 million. It's not for everybody, and it's not possible for everyone. There's a lot of possibilities where people can get to 3, 4, 5 million as well. So there's a lot of different things around that, but having a goal for it, having a plan for it, and making all those adjustments, we can get there. And you could be investing in the share market. That might be a strategy, and how to get that, and debt recycling and all those sorts of things. And you need a strategy for that, and you need to be tracking it, measuring it, reviewing it consistently. You might be a guy or girl who likes to get into property, and you might be a developer, you might be, a buy and hold. There's so many different ways to sort of do property transactions, and that may be your path. But if you don't have a plan, you just get what sort of you're given a lot of the time. And a lot of people talk about different things but don't actually get there because they just lack that implementation or the confidence to do something. So I know a lot of people like to think about. So there's just a few goals you sort of touch on. And then for each goal, you need a plan. Okay, how you're going to achieve that in your current situation. I always find a lot of people don't really understand their cash flow position, which if they knew their cash flow position, that'd get rid of a lot of worry, because you can just probably just answer this yourself. Do you know from month to month, really how much surplus you have and what's happening to that surplus and what are the options? And a lot of people just generally they know what they earn. They generally don't know what they spend. They've got a rough idea, but I'll give you a tip. Normally it's a little bit more than you expect it to be. So really getting clear around your financial plans and being able to afford it. Then if it's the super, what are the contributions and what are the investments? Or if it's the share market, what is the actual investments going to be? And if it's going to be property, what's the vehicle? And it goes on and on. I understand why people get confused. It's one of those things where a lot of people will live now and go, you know what, I'll worry about that later. And the danger in worrying about it later, you never get started and you don't get to where you want to be. I know, look, when it comes to financial planning, in most plans, very hard to get to where you want to be within 5 years. 10 years is pushing it. Generally, in 15 years, you can change everything. So that's why a lot of the people that we work with have got sort of 5, 10, 15, 20 years to retirement. And then obviously once they get to retirement, obviously living off that money, which we've retired plenty of people. So it's just being able to have the goals, have the financial plans in place, and making sure that you're implementing the plans consistently and making sure the strategies are right as well. I think what stops a lot of people is, am I doing the right thing? In my current situation, should I be putting more into super? Should I be buying an investment property? Should I be buying shares? Should I invest in a business? There's just so many different options available that it really just paralyzes some people. So once you actually get moving, and hopefully with investments really specifically, well, most people have got superannuation, you need to be updating and reviewing what's going on consistently. If you're not, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. There's so many times I review different superannuations and so forth, and the performance just not there. And overall, there's two things that make the biggest difference in super, and that is your contributions, so the money going in, what you're putting with your employer and yourself, and also what's it invested in. Those two things make the massive difference. Obviously, most things are talked about on TV and so forth are the fees. Obviously, fees are important, but if the other two aren't happening, the fees are not that important. So it's like most fees in super funds are very similar these days. There's some that are out there. Obviously, you should check on it, and it's important to understand what they are. But the other two things are going to make the most difference. And when it comes to investment performance on 50 grand or 100,000, it's not such a big deal. But if you get to $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, it makes a massive difference. And it's really important to stay up on track of. There's a lot of things that change in the investment markets. There's a lot of different opportunities that come. And depending on your goals and so forth, things change all the time. So for individuals, look, accountability is really important. So a lot of a reason why people work with a financial planner is once you've got the strategy and you're implementing it, that's really important. But the accountability to sticking to your plan, it's like anything, whether you're trying to get fit, you're trying to lose weight, or or change careers or what have you. If no one's holding you accountable, it's really hard to do that. And when someone engages actually a financial planner, they feel financially committed. They've paid some money, that they want to make sure that happens. And that's where financial planners help massively. Making sure clients are reviewed and that they're meeting their financial goals is really important. And then as you go along, life changes. Things change, marriages, children, career, all those sorts of things can at some stage create adjustments that needed in, depending on what you're invested in, depending on what the debt is and all those type of things. Those things change all the time. Really tracking your investments, which I've touched on, and also there's just so many times that I review a client and do it between probably 3 and 5 times a week, and there's things to change all the time. I don't think there's been a time where I just say there's nothing to do or nothing to change. So that just shows you that depending on investments, depending on cash flow, depending on their debt situation, also their goals might have changed. The opportunity to review and make changes and adapt should be pretty consistent, at least yearly. It could be 6 monthly, could be every 3 months. Like if you're a business owner, you're reviewing things a lot more often. But when it comes to financial planning, so if you're investing in super or the share market or property and all those types of things, it's actually a slow burn, but it's not something that you can put off for years and years and still get the best results. So you still want to be reviewing. And what should you look for? I always look conducting your own sort of reviews. So whether you want to do it monthly, quarterly. So we do cash flow monthly. I like my clients to keep control of their cash flow, and I work it out with them for 3 months. But then you've got investment reviews, sort of 6 monthly, and overall financial goals and a whole plan on a 12 monthly basis. I think that's a great idea. You want to update your budgets at that time. So if I try to stay away from the word budget, but everyone knows what it means. But it's more about cash flow for me. So if you're allocating money to holidays, allocating money to your investments and all those types of things. It's really important to stay on top because the cost of living, and you'll know this yourself, it's really increased over the recent years, and it's just life has become a lot more bloody expensive, and that's just a reality. Your investment performances will change, so you need to keep on track of that. Your insurance requirements will change. So as you get older, hopefully you get more wealthy. And what happens there is you can start reducing your insurances down. As like with insurance, if they just keep creeping up, what happens is the cost explodes on insurances. And insurance in general is cost a lot of money. I know between myself, the house, the boat, the cars, everything, the business, it's unbelievable how much actually goes into insurance. And one of the other ones that we work on all the time is the retirement plan. We want to know all the time that we are on track to be able to retire whenever we plan to. And that's something that needs to be managed, needs to be tracked. And it's one of those things you want to be reviewing regularly to make sure that you are on track, to keep giving you an encouragement. Look, to add money to investments or do anything different, it's a sacrifice. It is what it is. You could be like everybody else and go and blow all your money, right? Or you could be looking to add money to different investments and so forth to make sure that you can continue lifestyle when you get to that age. It's really difficult to continue earning money. And for most of us, that comes pretty early compared to what we're living these days. So a lot of people think that they'll just work forever. If you put yourself in that position, you can't do a U-turn when you're 70 years old, for argument's sake. So it's making sure that you're doing enough. And then you've got a lot of different things that are out there. There's budgeting apps, financial information, dashboards. There's so much information out there. What I like to do is actually keep it pretty bloody simple. Have your goals written out. Understand what your cash flow is, so just your incomings and outgoings. And you don't need a million accounts to do this. Just keep the bloody thing simple. Understand your cash flow. Where is all the money going to in those different investment vehicles, whatever makes sort of sense for yourself. And make sure you're getting progress. So one of the things I love about the reviews with our clients, most people have gone forward sort of 50,000 sort of the minimum, but average, once clients have been with us for a while, is hundreds of thousands every year. And what I mean by that is they're putting money into investments, so it's not all investment returns. Their assets are growing in value, the investments are growing in value, and just that stretching. So I work out what their debt has pulled down, what the investments have grown, and that really keeps people on track to, once they've been doing it for years, they start to really motor along and get hundreds of thousands, 300,000, 500,000, and everyone's a bit different in the scenario. But when you're getting those sort of results, you'll stick with it and keep going. And what I find from all the plans, and as we write them out, as we're designing them all the time, and the actual modeling of it all and the projections of it all, it's really interesting to keep track of that year by year. So every client of ours, we track where they were last year, and then the next year, and the next year, and the next year. You go back over 5 years. It was the review we done today. They'd I can't remember exactly where they started, but right now they're up to like 980 grand or 920 grand in between their investments and their super. And I know that before they started, it was well under 500 just over the period. So it's just consistently doing things. And everyone that we work with, we go back, whether you're starting with 50 grand investing or 100 grand, it doesn't matter. It's like once you do this consistently for years, it just becomes a lot of money. And it's just like, how did that happen? It was just by action, intention, making sure you're doing the right thing, making sure your money's working for you, and keep doing it. So I find financial reviews and reviews with our clients, I think one of the great things that I find about it is just the shock on a lot of people's faces of like where they were, where they are now, and how they feel about it. So they're really confident about where they're moving to because their cash flow is under control, debt's under control, assets are increasing. Everything is moving in the right way, where most people I run into feel stuck. They're not sure what to do, so they don't do anything. They're really unsure about what's going on with their money, and they're definitely unsure of what they should be investing in or what is the next step. So when I really speak to most people on the phone initially, the first question I ask them, I was like, what got you interested to talk to us today? And it's just like, well, I'm in this position. I really don't know what to do next. And I really don't like that feeling and being unsure, and I don't feel like I'm getting the progress. And that is pretty common. And the reality is, unless you're a financial planner, it's very difficult to understand what you should be doing initially to even get to the position of reviewing what you're doing all the time, whether that's on a quarterly basis, 6-monthly basis, or annually basis. From my point of view, if you take anything away from this, get your goals down, get your strategies right, making sure you're implementing them, whether you need help with that or not, and making sure you review them, because if you don't review them, you're not going to improve them and it's not going to give you the encouragement to keep going. So I've just found over sort of 10 years being a financial planner and doing a lot of reviews over that time, they are one of the most powerful tools to really help people stay on track, create the different tracks we need to go down to get the result really that they're after. And everyone's unique. Everyone's in a different position. But at the end of the day, we want financial security, safety, and be able to live really our best life. So I hope that helps today, guys. It's one of the things I am really passionate about. If you need some help with your financial planning, please feel free to reach out, jump on a 15-minute call and see if we can help you from there. But thanks for watching, and I look forward to talking with you soon.